Becky. When care becomes magnetic. Attraction isn't always loud. We are used to thinking of attraction as something obvious, something dramatic, something intense, something that announces itself. But there is another kind of pull, quieter, steadier, and far more lasting. It doesn't rush into the room. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't try to convince anyone. Simply draws people in. This is the kind of magnetism that surrounds Becky, not because of spectacle, but because of care. The subtle power of being attentive. Care begins with attention. Not the performative kind. Not the kind meant to be noticed. But the kind that notices others. Freen Sorocha and Becky Armstrong show attention in the smallest ways. Ways that don't look impressive until you realize how rare they are. Listening fully. Adjusting naturally. Responding instead of reacting. This attentiveness creates a quiet gravity. People feel it even when they can't explain it. Because being truly attended to, or witnessing it, is something many people deeply crave. How care changes the energy of a space. When care is present, spaces soften. Conversations slow down. Postures relax. Noise fades. Becky carries this effect with them. Their energy doesn't heighten tension. It releases it. They don't compete for presence. They don't dominate moments. They don't rush interactions. Instead, they allow things to unfold. And that allowance, that permission for calm, is magnetic. Care without possession. One of the most striking things about their dynamic is how care exists without ownership. There is no sense of control. No visible insecurity. No need to prove closeness. They care in a way that leaves room. Room for independence, room for breath, room for growth. This kind of care feels safe. And safety is attractive. Why care feels more compelling than intensity? Intensity can be thrilling, but it is often unstable. Care is steady. Shows up when nothing is happening. It remains when attention fades. It does not rely on momentum. Becky's connection doesn't spike and crash. Hums. That steady hum is what people are drawn to. Not because it excites them, but because it reassures them. The magnetism of mutual respect. Respect is often invisible until it's missing. With Freen and Becky, it is quietly everywhere. In how they speak to each other. In how they wait for each other. In how they never rush past one another's presence. This mutual respect creates balance. No one shrinks. No one overshadows. Balance feels good to witness. And what feels good naturally attracts. Why this resonates deeply with LGBTQ+ fans. For many LGBTQ+ people, care has not always been gentle. Has been conditional. Scrutinized. Tied to explanation or performance. So when queer fans see care expressed without conditions, without labels, without urgency, it feels deeply affirming. They see a version of connection that does not demand justification to exist. That kind of care feels magnetic because it feels possible. Care as emotional intelligence. Care is not instinct alone. It is skill. It requires awareness, timing, restraint. Becky shows care that understands when to step forward and when to step back. When to speak and when to remain quiet. When to support and when to simply stay present. This emotional intelligence is subtle, but people sense it immediately. And they are drawn to it. Why their care never feels performative. Performative care seeks recognition. Real care seeks understanding. Freen and Becky do not exaggerate their attentiveness. They don't heighten affection for effect. They don't turn care into a display. It exists whether or not anyone is watching. That consistency is what makes it believable. And belief creates attraction. The calm that pulls people closer. There is a calm that doesn't distance. It invites. Becky carries that calm. Doesn't make people feel excluded. It makes them feel welcome. It doesn't overwhelm. Grounds. Fans don't feel frantic around their connection. They feel settled. That feeling is rare in a world built on urgency. Care without explanation. Another reason their care feels magnetic is that it doesn't come with commentary. They don't explain why they show up for each other. They don't justify attentiveness. They don't translate their bond. They simply practice care. Consistently. And consistency speaks louder than reasoning ever could. How care creates trust over time. Trust does not arrive all at once. Grows. Through repetition. Through reliability. Through moments that don't contradict each other. Becky's care never feels temporary. Does not depend on circumstances. Does not fluctuate with attention. That reliability is what makes people trust what they feel. Magnetism without demand. Perhaps the most compelling thing about Becky is that they do not ask to be admired. They do not solicit belief. They do not chase validation. They simply exist in care. And people come closer on their own. That is magnetism at its purest. What care leaves behind? Care leaves traces. In how people soften when watching. In how they reassess what connection can look like. In how they imagine love without chaos. Becky leaves behind a feeling. One that doesn't fade when the moment ends. Conclusion. When care becomes the strongest pull. Becky's magnetism does not come from mystery alone. Comes from care. From attention that feels sincere. From respect that feels mutual. From gentleness that feels chosen. They show that the most powerful connections are not the loudest ones, but the ones that make people feel calm, seen, and safe. When care is practiced this way, it doesn't need to call attention to itself. Pulls people in naturally.